Okay, so today we're going to talk about a movie called Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Before we get started, click on that red subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you know whenever I post a new piece of content. Um, so the first Aquaman, I wouldn't say it was a great movie, but for me, it was a great time at the movies. It was really enjoyable. It was the best movie DC had made. It had a bunch of really memorable set pieces like the rooftop chase throughout the Mediterranean city. It had the scene where Nicole Kidman's character just beats the crap out of all these dudes in a house and like tears the place apart. And the camera's like bouncing around every corner of the room and it just looks amazing. And it had that like signature James Wan style and feel to it. And I loved it. It was not a great movie. You could probably argue that it wasn't even a good one, but it was really fun to watch, and I remember a lot about that movie. Um, and so now, a couple years later, we get a sequel. Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, their whole thing. She basically was like ostracized from Hollywood. There was a lot of questions about whether she would even be in this movie. To answer any questions about that right off the bat, she is in this movie. She's in a lot of this movie. Is an important part of this movie. Whatever they cut from her, it doesn't seem like it's all that noticeable because she's in the movie and she's an important part of it. She's a huge part of the third act. She's a major character. She's here and she's fine. All that personal stuff aside, she's in the movie. It's okay. And so you have to look at this movie compared to a couple things. You have to look at it compared to the original, which again, I really enjoyed. And you have to look at it in the greater DC universe. Now, this is the last of these movies. And unlike the first Aquaman, this movie is really just kind of forgettable. And I think it's a fitting end to the DCU. This whole thing is now wrapped up. It's over. James Gunn, who is very well known for directing the Guardians of the Galaxy films and doing a really good job with those, is now basically like leading the way at DC. He's got a new Superman movie that he's working on that comes out in a couple years. We'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic because I believe in James Gunn. I really do. I think he's a tremendous director who really understands characters and humor, and he was really good in Marvel. We'll see if his style translates to DC because Superman is not he's not Guardians of the Galaxy. He's not a wisecracker. That is material that is much more serious. Batman, Superman, while yes, the Richard Donner, Christopher Reeve Superman became more cheesy in the sequels, the original film has humor, but that is a straight superhero movie. And it plays it as a straight character, and he's not like poking fun. It's a real movie. And if you haven't seen the original Superman, what are you doing? Stop watching, go check it out. And now we're a far cry from all of that. We've had Henry Cavill as Superman, and so Aquaman and the Last Kingdom is just very forgettable and boring. I couldn't tell you the last thing about it. When I look back at Aquaman, I remember in that movie that they have this massive underwater sea creature, and it's voiced by Julie Andrews, and like nobody even noticed. Julie Andrews, as in The Sound of Music, Julie Andrews, as in Mary Poppins, Julie Andrews, as one of the greatest singers of all time, and probably one of the best, if not the best, singing film actresses of all time. And she doesn't even sing; she just voices this massive sea creature. And it was like it was just one of those like weird, funny, hysterical things that only like real movie fans who like dig into the Wikipedia articles would even notice. And it was just one of those goofy things that I loved about that movie. This movie just doesn't do anything like that. Yeah, Nicole Kidman's in it, but who cares? Yeah, Dolph Lundgren is in it, and he's the same character, and it tries to do all the humor and the funny beats, but who cares? And Patrick Wilson is back as Aquaman's brother Orm, but who cares? And the bad guy is back. Manta is back, and it's just none of it seems to really engage. And you can tell that at this point, Warner Brothers is just wrapping things up with the DCU, and they're moving on to the James Gunn universe. So this movie isn't very good. It's really frustrating. And in the great context of things, like this movie is just going to vanish into the ether, and nobody's going to care. And it's really kind of a greater. That's my thoughts on the movie, but as far as Warner Brothers, I dump on them constantly, and I think they deserve it because I think they're probably the worst movie studio there is, which really just shoots me in the foot for ever getting a job there, which is not a priority in my life. But they have two of the most important and I'd say influential like pulp culture IP under their belt. One is DC and the other one is Harry Potter. And while I really like the Harry Potter films, I don't think they're amazing. I think they're very good, somewhere between very good and great, but I don't think they're masterpieces like the books are. And if that's snotty and hoity-toity of me, fine. But they've done a good job with that. They've done a good job with Harry Potter. They didn't butcher that like they butchered DC. And if you look at what Marvel did with the MCU, and the MCU sucks now, just there's no escaping that. The MCU is now garbage. But what they did for a long time in the span of 10 years is they put out multiple phases that culminated in Endgame. They did a lot in a 10-year time span because they had a plan. DC's plan was we want to do what Marvel did in a third of the time, and of course it didn't work. Man of Steel was fine. Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice was unnecessary and frankly garbage. And then they tried to hem it all together with Justice League and Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman is actually great. It's probably the best of all those movies. But then Justice League was a mess, and they couldn't even get that right. The best version of Justice League came out later when they gave Zack Snyder money to finish his original vision. So really, it's a shame what's happened with DC. I'm based on James Gunn's participation in what they're doing now and the fact that it's all in new hands. We'll see. I would love to go back and kind of revisit my opinion on Warner Brothers in the next 5-10 years to see how things have improved. But we'll say I'm cautiously optimistic about the future, but it is sad to see Aquaman finish things with a whimper instead of a bang. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, if you found it helpful, I hope you would consider subscribing. This is also going to be the last, I think, 2-3 weeks that I'm shooting in this particular location as I'm in the process of going back to Seattle. I'll film a video or two there with better lighting and everything will look better. And then I am moving to Southern California. So a little life update there too. And I will get things back where they need to be from a production standpoint. Working on the road like this sucks because I don't think the videos look or sound as good as they should. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 9 a.m.